Update. A customer bounced a $400 check to my small business and then told me to suck his D when I called him about it. I can't afford small claims. Original post. As the title says, a real jerk came into my flower store. He very rudely ordered 12 custom flower bowls to be made for him. I made his order and he picked it up. At the time of pickup, he was very hesitant to write me the check. He wanted to order more and then come back with one big check. I said no. Check now, please. He signed his name and tossed it to me. I had to write in the dollar amount. Now the check is bouncing. I have been by his bank every day for 2 weeks to attempt a cashier's check, but he doesn't have the funds in the account. I think he uses this checkbook for this exact reason. The check was number 003 from the book. Does anyone have any advice? I'm crying myself to sleep thinking about this. I can't afford to open a court case. My current ideas are 1. Putting David last name writes bad checks on my road sign next to a major road in town. 2. Call his employer. 3. Anything else that is legal. I'm about to drive the neighborhood and look for my flowers. Please help me get this man. I just want to grow my flowers. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Small claims court usually is not more than $50 to open a complaint. You'll win, but you'll also learn won is much different than collected. You may not be able to collect anything. File a report with the police and at the bank. Learn to not accept a check from a new account. Accept credit cards or preferably cash. Don't start stalking someone. You don't know this guy's name for certain. Even if you read off his driver's license, it could be faked. That is good to know. File a report with the police and with his bank. Got it. I'll be doing that when they open. I don't know how to file with small claims, but this is a good opportunity for a crash course. I'm upset about the money, but at this point I am just so mad that a grown, successful man can walk around with his chest out, all the while stomping on me, a young girl who's barely starting up. He drives a dozen different SUVs, and because of him, I'm working every shift this week, unable to pay my employee. He is an abuser with an ego, and he is not doing as well as you are, but make sure that fact is hidden under his brashness and chest-outness. Let us help you a little. If you're willing to give out your shop name, perhaps some of us can buy a few flowers and leave a tip. In the meantime, report. Make sure to have a shame list with names of past customers who have screwed you, even if they end up paying. Actions have consequences. First time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. So let yourself remind yourself and your employees that that man should never get farther than showing his ID before he is run off. Also, never accept checks. Tons of other ways to pay nowadays. Even businesses will find a way. For example, my business can do bank-to-bank transfers, PayPal, credit card, and we can do business checks, but prefer the other 3. These comments have me feeling extra stupid for learning this lesson. And thank you for the offer on spreading my business. My greenhouse is attached to my home, and my retail gazebo is in my front field. I think I'm done learning hard lessons today, so I'm not going to post my home address on Reddit. But thank you again. It's a crime. File a police report and have him arrested for check fraud. Don't put up the sign or attempt to take back your flowers, then you'll be committing crimes, harassment, and theft. Do this by the book and get this man arrested for fraud. You already have the proof. This is good advice, thank you. I never even thought about a police report. I was wondering if the sign would be harassment. I discovered we have a mutual friend on Facebook and reached out to them. It sounds like this mutual friend, a car salesman, has had this guy come in and give him a $1,000 check to hold a vehicle for him and then disappear. They never tried to cash the check. I wonder if he still has it. Now for the mini update. The police just left the greenhouse. They collected the paperwork I have for the whole mess. When the officer looked at the name of the guy, he said, "Oh no, please don't drop the charges on this one. I want to see it go through." And then he sat in his squad car for a few minutes and made a bunch of phone calls. That's a good sign, I guess. Full update. Thank you to everyone who encouraged me to fight for my money. I filed a police report. The cop came out to my store, and when I handed him the information I had on the guy, He chuckled and said, "Oh, this guy. If you want to open a report, that's fine. And he deserves it. But he always comes running when we call him." And sure enough, he showed up an hour after the police had left him a message. He said I had no right involving the police, and that it was so far out of line that I needed to appease him somehow with a discount on more flowers. He then demanded I call the officer while he was there so he could see me drop the report. I told him our business is done and stood my ground. It was great. He left, and it honestly felt like it was the first time he hadn't gotten his way in a long time. That's awesome. Now put his picture at the register and a sign that says, "Refuse service, bad checks, theft." Face it where everyone can see it at the register. Include his name, it won't be illegal. P.S. I hope your business grows as big as you want it. You deserve it. I told the cop I'd been planning to put "David writes bad checks" on my street sign. The cop laughed and said, "Even after David pays, I should still put that on my sign because it's still true." Made me feel good. This dude reminds me of my landlord. Absolute nickel and diming scumbag who drags his heels on necessary repairs. Runs through workers like water because of nonsense like this. A-holes like this bank on scaring you into submission because the moment authorities are involved, they know they're screwed. Sounds like my ex-landlord. Had to sue him to get several square meters of black mold removed from the wall that separates the bathroom and the bedroom. There was a leak in the wall. In my jurisdiction, infrastructural issues are the landlord's responsibility, not the renter's. I wasn't the only tenant who had that problem. Several others had had it in the past too, and that slumlord was a known name amongst lawyers in the housing and tenancy specialty. He tried to intimidate me, back then a woman in her early 20s, with phone calls several times, and even stood there screaming bloody murder at me the day of the repairs, which, until the last minute, were not even certain to happen because he was stalling the process and preferred to intimidate me into dropping the case instead. That a-hole lived in a multi-million euro Mountain Vista residence, which I know because I handed in my termination of rent contract personally with a witness. Dude also had a habit of claiming important mail never reached him, of course, so that's why I drove there myself with a witness, while his renters were rotting in moldy apartments. I hope that slumlord died painfully from his high blood pressure. Very obvious. Dude's head was permanently as red as a turkey's face, and he was fairly old, so just a matter of time. Next story. Am I the a-hole for letting my boyfriend get a taste of his own medicine? My 29 female boyfriend, 27 male, has this habit of constantly calling me dumb or stupid. It started as a joke, and at first I laughed along. But over time, it became his go-to way of addressing me, no matter the situation. I asked him, begged him to stop, especially in front of his friends. But he would just chuckle and say, "What? But you are dumb." His friends even picked it up, and now they casually call me dumb too. It's humiliating. I started avoiding his social gatherings because I knew I'd just be the butt of their jokes. Whenever I told him how much it bothered me, he'd just say I was being too sensitive and that it was just a joke. Last night, I hosted a party with my work colleagues. It was important to me because I work in a competitive field, and many of my co-workers are incredibly accomplished. I introduced my boyfriend to everyone, hoping he'd be on his best behavior. But of course, he wasn't. Barely an hour in, he started the dumb comments again. My close work friends are used to me venting about this, but one of my senior colleagues, an incredibly sharp, no-nonsense woman, was clearly unimpressed. She turned to him and said, "Hey, you're a guest here, and you do realize who you're talking to, right? Maybe cut the dumb comments." He just laughed, like he always does. Then later in the evening, I accidentally dropped my drink while reaching for it, and right on cue, he loudly called me dumb again. That's when my senior completely shut him down. You know, everyone in this room has either an advanced degree, multiple certifications, or years of experience in their field, including OP, who's one of the smartest and most competent people I've worked with. The only person here without those credentials is you. So if we're talking about intelligence, you're the least qualified person to judge. Dead silence. For the first time ever, my boyfriend had nothing to say. He went completely red and barely spoke for the rest of the night. When we got home, he was livid. He said I should have defended him, that I let my colleague humiliate him, and that what she said was unnecessary and cruel. I just looked at him and said, "So now you know how it feels." He's sulking and acting like I'm the bad guy. For what it's worth, my senior later apologized to him before leaving, saying she didn't mean to be harsh but was just looking out for me. Now he's acting like I betrayed him, but I can't bring myself to feel bad. After years of him publicly embarrassing me, wasn't it fair for him to finally experience what he put me through? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Are you sure you want to be with this person who clearly demeans you regularly, is emotionally abusive, something your very tremendously awesome colleague caught on to immediately? Your senior rocks and is wonderful. I hope she is your mentor. Right? She saw in one night what I've been dealing with for years. It really put things into perspective for me. It's got me thinking, why have I put up with this for so long? She's not technically my mentor, but I definitely see her as someone to learn from though. It's sad that he's sulking instead of reflecting on his behavior. You deserve a partner who lifts you up. Sounds like he's never felt empathy, so why would he start now? Hopefully OP moves on from this lost cause. Not the a-hole for what happened, he more than deserved that. But you're the a-hole to yourself for being with someone like him. You deserve better. Yeah, I guess this is the wake-up call I didn't expect but I needed. I'm done putting up with his nonsense. The only time you should put up with being treated with disdain in a relationship is when you have a cat. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not showing up for a shift I was scheduled? My coworker, who is sick every other week and needs her shifts covered or switched around often, texted the work chat the other day that she was sick, yet again, and asked to switch. She also complains about not getting enough hours even though she calls out. I prefer to have a set schedule every week, but I decided to switch with her this time. She said hopefully she would feel better by Saturday, today. I worked her shift 2 days ago. Yesterday, I went into work and was surprised to see that she had worked her morning shift. After work, she came up to the bar, got herself a shift drink, and sat down to eat her meal and drink a beer. She looked and sounded fine. Afterward, she asked to take a shot with our other coworker who was off as well. They discussed hanging out and whether they should buy beer or not. Today, just a few hours before the shift I was originally scheduled for but had given to her, she texted the work chat saying she was still sick and that I needed to work my shift as originally scheduled. I got extremely annoyed because I had made other plans today. I told her in the work chat that, no, I was not going to work today because I assumed she was feeling better. She had been taking shots, drinking, and working the day before. She asked if anyone else wanted to work, and no one responded. She then messaged the manager to tell them she wasn't working my shift and that I had to. The manager is now mad at me because I refused to come in after my coworker's behavior and making other plans. Am I wrong for not showing up to my shift? Now for the top advice. I'm not sure how it is at your company, but everywhere I've worked, if you ever switch shifts with someone, their shift becomes yours and yours becomes theirs. So if they don't show up, it's on them, even if it was originally your shift. If this is the case, then not the a-hole, and maybe never trade with her again to protect yourself. I currently work for the government. Here, if you trade shifts and the other person calls out or no-shows what was your shift, you still get in trouble. Every other job I've had has been like yours. You sign a thing or email boss about making the swap and go on your way. Not the a-hole. Don't trade shifts with her again. Also, I would discuss with your manager. If they aren't bothered with her unreliability, the manager needs to deal with all her absences. Totally agree. It's unfair for her to manipulate the schedule like that. I'm wondering why the manager is not saying anything to this girl. There is always that one coworker that gets away with everything, and nothing is ever said to them. It's not fair and frustrating. Not the a-hole. At my job, when you switch, you have to sign a paper. So now your regular shift is no longer your shift at all, and is on the other coworker if they don't come in. They probably bang. I've seen that go on in a few different places. Last story. Am I the a-hole for publicly telling my ex-coworker that I don't like them? I, 32 female, ran into an ex-coworker, Sarah, 31 female, at a bar while I was out with friends celebrating my birthday. We worked together for 2 years at a fast food restaurant. I left this job in January 2025. She was a shift lead, and I've never liked her. I didn't like her management style or her personality. She came up to me at the bar, and we had a 10-ish minute conversation. I thought it was cordial and polite. She was mostly asking me questions about my new job. She asked if I would recommend her for a job at my new company. I got a job at a call center, nothing glamorous. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with that. She brushed it off with a bad joke. I ended the conversation and walked to the table my friends were at, and Sarah followed me. I didn't notice until I got to the table and she sat down next to me. My friends introduced themselves, and I, without thinking, said something along the lines of, "I don't like you. Can you please leave?" I have autism, and I could tell that was not the correct thing to say. Everyone seemed uncomfortable, and Sarah was visibly shocked and upset. My friends were shocked and confused. They assumed that Sarah was a friend or someone I invited to the table. They had zero context of who Sarah is. Sarah made a scene and told me that I was rude, a bee, and a bunch of other things. She said that I embarrassed her. She embarrassed herself by following me to my table uninvited. And yes, she knew it was my birthday. I do feel bad and know that I could have formulated a more polite response. But she's a former coworker, and an unpleasant one. I have many stories about her, but the worst examples are that she made jokes about my autism and deafness multiple times. She is fake nice, and her friendship style is bullying people. She has a really icky vibe. I don't know what Sarah wanted from me. I wasn't going to hang out with her, especially not on my birthday. So, am I the a-hole for telling her bluntly that I don't like her? Not the a-hole. Some people apparently need straight-up bluntness even if it is rude. She is one of them. You told her you weren't comfortable recommending her for a position where you are now. She brushed it off with a joke. You ended the conversation. She followed you to the table. She needed blunt. Exactly. I'm sure there are many people reading this post saying, "Damn, I wish I could be that blunt." There is a time and a place for it, and this was it. Also, with autism, it's easy for manipulative people to hijack that tendency to question your actions whenever anyone gets upset. You do the right thing, and then they act all offended, hoping to get you to waffle. If you suspect this may be happening, seeking independent opinions, like you're doing right now, is vital. Well done all around, OP. Wish I had the guts to be that clear and to the point. People like Sarah rely on everyone being too polite to call her out. She was expecting to crash your party, make contacts, and try and persuade your friends to get her a job. She'd have made you miserable in your friend circle by invading it. Good for you for speaking up.